In today's gaming news, Company of Heroes 2 enters closed beta next week, Crytek looks to acquire Darksiders, the Ouya is ready for action, and Jay Wilson states that Diablo 3's auction house was a mistake. Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. It is Friday, March the 29th, and my name is Force, here with your day's gaming news. First up today, Company of Heroes 2 will be going into closed beta next week, so put on your helmets and grab your rifles, boys. It's time to go to battle. Anyone who pre-orders Company of Heroes 2 will gain access to the beta on April 2nd. The beta will include 6 symmetrical maps for competitive play, along with the first 40 levels of army customization. If you don't feel like pre-ordering the game, Sega has said they plan to open the beta to a larger audience in the coming weeks. If you couldn't tell, I'm really excited for the next Company of Heroes game. Now, they're not going to be changing a ton about it. It's pretty much going to be exactly like the original in terms of gameplay. There'll be, of course, graphical improvements and probably better physics, but it's going to play about the same. So if you enjoyed the first Company of Heroes, chances are you will enjoy the second, if you want to play the same game again. Next up in news, Crytek has expressed interest in purchasing the Darksiders IP, which is a brave move considering what Death did to THQ. The Darksiders IP, which consists of the first 2 games, is going up for sale on April 1st in THQ's back catalog auction. In a post on Twitter, Crytek USA CEO David Adams expressed interest in purchasing the Darksiders IP back from THQ so it may return to its creators. He is of course referring to himself and the other 35 ex-Vigil employees who now make up Crytek USA. This would be the perfect place for Darksiders given that most of Vigil now works for Crytek, so if anyone can make Darksiders 3, it's probably going to be them, and hopefully this is where the IP ends up going. Moving on, the Ouya is finally ready for gamers, but are gamers ready for the Ouya? The Ouya is set to launch on June 4th for $99 and will be available online and in major retail stores. Hands-on impressions of the console have begun appearing on sites like Game Informer and Joystick, and a gameplay compilation video was recently released. Although not entirely unexpected, it appears like the $99 Android-based console has many gamers confused and frustrated as to why it exists. Now, after taking a look at this video and seeing the like to dislike ratio and reading the comments section, it really makes you wonder where exactly this console is going to fit in, because evidently there's a lot of confusion as to why it exists. I mean, you look at the comments and it's things like, these graphics are so terrible, they're so much worse than the PS4, or these are games I played 10 years ago. But that's not the point, and given the fact that this console is $99, which will be about 1/5 of the cost of the next generation of consoles, it's not trying to directly compete with them, it's trying to be its own thing. But once again, with all this confusion, is there a place for it in the market, and is it going to sell? I guess we'll be finding out soon enough. Last up in news today, Diablo 3 director, or ex-Diablo 3 director, Jay Wilson has admitted that the auction house in that game was a mistake. You don't say. During a talk at GDC, Jay Wilson said the inclusion of an auction house in Diablo 3 really hurt the game. He explained how Blizzard originally thought the auction house was something players wanted to help reduce fraud and provide a service many used in the prior game. But what it ultimately did was cause players to focus more on buying and selling items than actually acquiring them from playing. Now, Jay went on to say that if they could remove the auction house, they would, but it's not that simple. They're just not sure with the current player base how many people like or dislike it, so it's going to have to stay where it is. It's interesting to note that the PlayStation 3 version of Diablo 3 is not going to include an auction house, and of course the PlayStation 4 version as well. Now, they've got alternative fixes in the works, but he didn't really explain what they were, so I'm assuming we'll find out at some point in the future. Now, what I want to know from you guys today is, if they hadn't implemented the auction house into Diablo 3, how do you think the game would have done? Would it have sold any better? Would people have been playing it for longer? Or was the game inherently flawed aside from the auction house? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Alright guys, that is going to do it for today's episode of the show. As always, thank you so much for watching. Once again, this has been Force, and you have just been force-fed. The Ouya gaming console. Play games from 20 years ago. Now! Platformers, we got them. Boxing simulation games, we got them. Pinball machines, we got them. Bear fights, we got them.